The officer took a bite of a crisp jujube, but the man defiantly raised a grenade and bit into it, mocking the officer as a coward. The German soldiers around immediately went on high alert. They raised their guns, aiming at the madman. But to everyone's surprise, the grenade didn't explode. The man suddenly reacted violently. He started vomiting uncontrollably, but the next second, he actually pulled out a medal from his mouth. The officer quickly put away his gun, and the soldiers stood at attention, because that medal represented the highest honor of Germany. The officer was just about to speak, when a ringing sound interrupted him. The soldiers hurriedly searched their pockets, only to find their pocket watch missing. Unexpectedly, the man simply reached behind himself, and pulled the pocket watch out of his crotch. The adjutant furiously lunged at him, but the man spun around, and jumped straight into the nearby well. The soldiers rushed forward in shock to check, when suddenly a hand reached out, and several of them pulled him back up together. The adjutant, still furious, tried to beat the man, but in the next second, he realized the pocket watch had already returned to his pocket. He burst into laughter, feeling it was absolutely unbelievable. The man continued his performance, blowing air forcefully into his body, shaking his head, and making funny noises. The soldiers all found it amusing, and crowded around to watch. Only the officer stayed cautious, and not far from them, a captain was tightly bound. The soldiers kept their eyes on the front, ready to fire at any moment. Suddenly, the man pulled out 3 grenades from nowhere, and started juggling them skillfully in the air. The soldiers tensed up again, raising their weapons. The man kept stepping back, then dropped the grenades, and turned to hide inside the wooden hut. The officer was just about to give the order to fire, but in the next second, the man ran out with a wooden barrel on his head, stumbling comically. Everyone burst out laughing. In the scuffle, the man fell to the ground. When the soldiers lifted the barrel lid, they were stunned to find he had vanished on the spot. The crowd looked around in confusion, but the sound of laughter came from above. Everyone looked up. The man was already sitting on the rooftop, licking the back of his hand like a cat. The light-hearted laughter rang out again. Suddenly, the man climbed up a ladder, constantly switching into dangerous poses. The officer seemed to sense something was wrong, slowly retreating behind the girl, threatening him to come down immediately. But the man just smiled faintly, and suddenly fell from the roof. The officer cautiously approached, seeing the man lying motionless, not knowing if he was alive or dead. Just as he turned his head and noticed something wrong, he shouted loudly, and then gunfire suddenly erupted. The officer fell dead to the ground, and the rest of the German soldiers also collapsed one after another, leaving only one soldier still standing there. The man slowly stood up, brushed the dust off his body, and slowly raised his hand, aiming straight at him.